Hello, my name's Dean Park and I'm from the Quandamooka peoples of Minjerribah, which is also known as North Stradbroke Island, just off the coast of Brisbane. It's great to be here with you today. I know there's been a lot of interest since Prime Minister Anthony Albanese made a really, to some people, a surprising comment during the election night saying that the government was committed to a referendum on a voice to Parliament. And I know that there are many people sitting out there in their lounge rooms on that night not really sure about what he meant. What we're talking about is very simple. It's just three things: recognising Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples in the Constitution, having an Indigenous voice to Parliament, and the need for a referendum to make it all happen. And we want to be able to do this because this is a conversation that we have to have across the nation. This is a conversation that every single Australian needs to be part of. And so we don't want to confuse the issue. We're not going to dive down deep into details. This is not about the politics. This is not about making a particular point. It's simply about having a conversation with you, sharing a bit of information about Indigenous Constitutional Recognition, about a voice to Parliament, and about a referendum. And we're hoping that this is something that triggers a conversation more broadly in your families, in your workplaces, in your communities, and something that we really want the whole nation to get behind. What constitutional recognition means is acknowledging the 65,000 years of continuous connection that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have to this country.
It's about Australians embracing First Nations peoples. It's about us being recognised in our constitution, in our rule book.
It is a unique status as the first peoples of the Australian nation.
And it's about, I guess, having that sense of this is where we started as a people and as a nation. And that's really, really important in terms of the relationship that we have between First Australians and everyone else.
I can't tell you how much that means, to our community, to our nation, to myself, to my family, to not have to argue for that basic recognition, to be recognised as First Nations, that we belong here and that we have a right to be heard.
It took until 2017, the Uluru Statement from the Heart, for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples to very firmly say what meaningful constitutional recognition looked like to us.
It's recognising our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the founding document of our nation.
And how do we embrace First Nations peoples as the first peoples of this country, which is unique and different to anywhere else in the whole world?
It's unfinished business, and it's about time that we recognise that the Aboriginal people were living on this continent, Torres Strait Islanders were inhabiting our homelands, and that recognition in the Constitution is going to go a long way to healing past injustices in the modern history of Australia.
I remember when I was facilitating a NAIDOC event for school, when I've asked mob at school if they want to do a dance or if they want to sing or do storytelling or something like that, there's that shame factor, I'm scared to voice my culture and to talk about it. But with this, I believe it will make them actually feel valued and empowered in their own country as First Nations Australians. Yeah.
In 1967, the Australian public voted overwhelmingly to allow the Commonwealth Government to make laws about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Before, it hadn't had that power.
Meaningful, real constitutional recognition had to come through a voice. It had to be about this voice to Parliament. There are too many issues in our communities which mean that we can't just have symbolic recognition. There needs to be practical change alongside that.
But then also, what a lot of people talk about, the practical kind of things that come along with that, and the power of that symbolism too, is that, not only are you recognising us finally, but you actually have to listen to us and talk to us, and we have a say. We get to sit at the table where the decisions are made, which for too long have been made without us. And one of the things in my family that we always talk about is all the kind of things that have happened in the Barmah forest and the Wirral forest and all the environmental degradation, but what happened to our families there, and actually being able to have a seat at the table with people like Victoria and New South Wales parks and wildlife type people, with the government on, when they're making the leasing decisions that are impacting our families when it comes to the history of economic development in those areas.
I think the important thing in constitutional recognition is that it puts Indigenous people firmly in the founding document of modern Australia. And it's not putting us in the Constitution in a way that someone else has suggested we should be. It's putting us in the Constitution in the way Indigenous people have decided they want to be recognised in the Constitution. And that's important because it's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people deciding for themselves what they want, asking the Australian people to support them in that, and then that being enshrined in the document that defines the way the nation works. In a way, our most important document in Australia.
The Uluru Statement very clearly said that if we are going to do this, if we are going to formally and finally do constitutional recognition for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, it's got to be through the voice.
And just for having our voice enshrined in the Constitution, it doesn't only have like an impact now, but has impact on the generations to come.
And is an important first step in building a shared future for our country.